Wings of Fire is a book series full of bad parents. Some are downright awful, such as Jerboa, who forced her dragonettes to become whatever she wanted through animus magic, and possibly even killed one of them. Then there's Cadell, who is a bit less bad, but she still neglected cricket, and later abandoned both her and Katie did when she got an opportunity to go and teach in Jewel Hive. Some parents are a bit more controversial, who some believe are abusive and others think weren't as bad. An example of that is Queen Coral, whose helicopter parenting hurt her daughters and her absent parenting hurt her sons. However, she does have a reason for her behavior, that being the deaths of her daughters, and she is getting better in the more recent books. Another character whose parenting techniques have been recently criticized by the fandom is Secretkeeper. Some people say that she neglected Moon and made her feel as though her powers were a burden. Others say that she was doing the best that she could as a parent. Today, I'm going to be taking a look at Secretkeeper's parenting techniques and what made her choose them, and analyze whether or not Secretkeeper is abusive. Before we get started, if you are new to this channel, please think about subscribing. I regularly post animal fiction content, so you'll never be bored. And to my current subscribers, thank you so much for supporting me. I wouldn't have gotten here without y'all. Now, without further ado, let's hop into the video. So, let's discuss how Secretkeeper parented Moonwatcher outside of her powers. Secretkeeper faked losing her egg so that she could hide it in the rainforest. Due to the strict rules of the Nightwing Island, Secretkeeper wasn't even sure that she could make it to the hatching of the egg, but she managed to sneak off to the rainforest in just enough time to see her egg hatch. However, something was off about the egg. It had a silver color, when all the Nightwing eggs that Secretkeeper had ever seen before were black. But despite that, Secretkeeper promised to love the dragonette who came out of the egg no matter what. The dragonette hatched, and she was perfect, besides for two strange details. She had a teardrop scale near her eyes, and her eyes themselves were deeper than a dragonette should be. Secretkeeper named her dragonette Moonwatcher, a name that would only be said by her for the first 4 years of the dragonette's sheltered life. Soon after, Secretkeeper had to return to the Nightwing Isle, leaving Moon alone in the rainforest. This would become a pattern, with Moonwatcher being left alone for long periods of time in the rainforest, starting just hours from her hatching. I shouldn't need to tell you this, but even though the rainforest isn't as actively hostile as the poison jungle, it is still no place for a dragonette, let alone a hatchling, to be left to freely roam. Moon was left alone just hours after she hatched. Another dragon left alone right after they hatched was Sky, who was a few days old. In Dragon Slayer, at that age, Sky was small enough to be mistaken for a rabbit by Ren. If growing and aging works the same way for Nightwings, Moon would be easy prey for any predator that came across her in the rainforest. Even a Jaguarundi would have been able to end her life. She had no ways of protecting herself, no way of fleeing, she couldn't walk, let alone fly. Even as she grew up and got bigger, Moon would still be in danger of predators. Dragonettes at 2 years of age, like an enemy, are described as being roughly dolphin-sized. At that size, a jaguar could still kill her, as according to the World Wildlife Fund, jaguars regularly hunt prey 3 to 4 times their own weight. The rainforest is also full of poisonous plants and animals. There are poison dark frogs for starters. Countless fruits have negative side effects. For example, there's the chewy one that Clay encountered, and the one that Jambu talked about that caused hallucinations. And poisonous things are likely to have bright colors, which could attract a young dragonette unaware of the dangers to them. There are dozens of other hazards, like quicksand, drowning in a river, dying from a fall, being strangled by a snake, etc. that Moon was exposed to. Moonwatcher was also left alone for days at a time, which is a hazard in of itself. First of all, there are the physical effects. Without an adult dragon to hunt for her, Moon was forced to hunt on her own from a young age, or else risk starvation. Then there are the psychological effects. Since Moonwatcher grew up alone in the rainforest, she didn't get much socialization. That could lead her to missing obvious social cues and having strange relationships with other dragons. According to an article by Tulane University called Understanding the Effects of Social Isolation on Mental Health, social isolation has been found to increase feelings of depression, lowering self-esteem, and even cause cognitive decline. In some cases, prolonged social isolation has been linked to premature mortality. However, this might be more of a correlation than a cause and effect relationship. Now, we have covered the reason why raising Moonwatcher in a dangerous rainforest with little supervision from other dragons wasn't the best idea, but Secretkeeper was sometimes able to slip away from her duties on the Nightwing Island to check in on her daughter and make sure an anaconda or jaguar didn't eat her. In those moments, she wasn't the best parent either. Moon was born under 2 full moons, meaning that she had the Nightwing powers of future sight and mind reading. She was the first dragon to be hatched with both of them in known memory, and before she hatched, Nightwings may have not even known that they used to have future sight, and they didn't just make it up at some points. With no guide for what to do with a mind-reading dragonette, Secretkeeper did not pass the test with flying colors. When Secretkeeper drops off Moon at Jade Mountain, she reminds her not to reply to other dragons' thoughts as it will make them uncomfortable. That is actually some good advice and would likely be applicable and shared during Darkstalker's time, when there were many more mind readers. However, Secretkeeper also directly calls her mind reading a curse. She also says that it is terrible to be the way that Moon is, which is yikes. Imagine your parents saying that to you for a condition that you can't control. And if you keep your condition a secret, you can live a normal life? I'm sure that a lot of people in the audience have heard a certain variation on that. Now, I'm going to read out a section of text to you and give some commentary on it. Was it because her mother thought she was cursed? Maybe Secretkeeper really wanted to keep Moon as far away from her as possible. Her thoughts never quite said that, but she'd learned to block some of them over the last 4 years, and she did worry all the time about Moon's mind reading. Moon wasn't sure she wanted to be normal if it meant grumping around thinking only her own thoughts, and mostly all about herself, the way most Nightwings did. But her mother seemed very sure that she'd be happier that way. Maybe acting normal was something that she could learn here. To me, it is obvious that Secretkeeper doesn't want to push Moon away. She, in fact, at the beginning of the chapter, offers to take her back to the rainforest, and she keeps that door open at all times. However, it says a lot about the relationship that Moon thinks that her own mother would willingly abandon her. The commentary on being normal is also interesting. Moon reflects that being normal isn't something that she wants to be. However, she feels like she has to mask who she is in order to fit in due to the paranoia that Secretkeeper has instilled in her. Upon integrating into Jade Mountain Academy's life, Moon meets the first other mind reader in her life, the long-buried, ancient evil Darkstalker. Unlike her mother, Darkstalker viewed her mind reading as a gift. Is it any wonder that Moon fell for his manipulation when her mother has literally spent her entire life saying that she was hatched wrong, and suddenly she's being praised for her perceived worst flaw? And Darkstalker summarizes up Secretkeeper's parenting perfectly. She seems to have a lot of opinions on what's best for you, none of which involve finding out your own preferences first. Though Moonwatcher questions her mother's perspective on her powers as early as Moon Rising, her mother's perspective of her powers continues to shape her life and her view of herself. Even after Arc 2 and guidance from Darkstalker, Moonwatcher views her mind reading as being a flaw with her. In The Flames of Hope, Moonwatcher doesn't tell Luna that she is a mind reader, even though she is reading her mind and occasionally subtly responding to her thoughts. Moon only admits it long after she has been captured by the other mind. While doing so, she describes her mind reading as one of the many things wrong with her, which shows that she does not have a very positive self-image. Since her mind reading literally directly led to saving the world in that book, hopefully she may view her powers in a different light now, as something positive and not a defect. Next, there's her future sight. I'm not going to be saying a lot in this section because Moon mainly sees her future sight in a positive light. But at the start of Arc 2, Secretkeeper does not even know that Moon has future sight powers. That's because Moon feels like her mother will be even more paranoid that she is cursed. The way that Secretkeeper acts prevents Moon from reaching out to her mother, the dragon who should protect her, for help. And even if she did reach out, I agree with Moon's conclusion that Secretkeeper would totally freak out. This is one secret that Secretkeeper does not earn the privilege of keeping. We can obviously see that Secretkeeper leaving Moonwatcher in the rainforest left a negative impression on her psyche. She also left Moonwatcher anxious about her powers. It's obvious that Secretkeeper's parenting choices weren't the best, so why did she make them? Secretkeeper, like every single other Nightwing, was born on the volcanic island where they had lived ever since from fleeing Darkstalker thousands of years ago. She likely saw how frail her tribe was growing, reduced to living on scraps from the rainforest and whatever they could catch out at sea. Fierceteeth says that every year they were having less eggs and less of them survived to be dragonettes. This is supported by Secretkeeper. In the years since she faked losing Moonwatcher, the tribe only had one new egg, Mighty Claws. However, Secretkeeper is older than Fierceteeth. Seeing as she had eggs with Morrowseer, she was likely around the same age as him. He is over 20 years old, and if she is the same age, that means she is older than the tunnels to the mainland, as they were made only 8 years before the first arc began. Without the tunnels, the Nightwings had even fewer resources. The island only has a scrap of forest, and there are no islands nearby from what we have been told. The addition of the tunnels likely kept the Nightwings from starving to death, but the gradual decay of their tribe still continued. The decay was quite literal if you are talking about the volcano itself. The volcano burned down almost all the vegetation on the island and choked out the rest. The lava flow destroyed most Nightwing settlements on the island. The only one that we are ever told about is the stronghold that all of them seem to live in. The volcano also caused direct harm to the Nightwing's health. Inhaling ashes and volcanic fumes can lead to respiratory conditions like asthma, and eventually lung infections and bronchitis. Volcanic gases can also cause eye irritation and likely irritated scales as well. Long-term exposure to the volcano is also likely to cause infertility in Nightwings, as within the tribe, dragons having eggs is rare, and dragons having siblings even rarer. Because of the harmful effects of the volcano, Secretkeeper thought that Moon would have the best chance of survival if she were in the rainforest, even if she couldn't be there all the time. Another reason that she kept Moon in a rainforest would be Morrowseer himself, especially after Secretkeeper learned just how special her daughter was. We don't know a lot about Morrowseer and Secretkeeper's relationship. We know that he considers Secretkeeper a sensible dragon, and likewise Secretkeeper does not talk much about Morrowseer. In fact, according to Moon, she rarely even thinks about him at all. Because of the two's feelings towards each other, I don't think they were married or loved each other. I don't think there was an abusive dynamic going on either. I think that they were just part of a breeding program, like how Chameleon and Kestrel were. Even if we can't discern much about the two's relationship, there is one thing we know about Morrowseer for certain. He will do anything to save his dying tribe. He faked a prophecy affecting the fate of the entire continent and leading to the kidnapping of 5 dragon eggs. Technically 6 if you want to count the egg that was shattered. He ordered assassinations on countless dragons and even killed some himself. If he found out that his daughter was a seer and a mind reader, he absolutely would have used her abilities to conquer the other tribes. Now, when it comes to how Secretkeeper handled her daughter's powers, we have to acknowledge that she did not have a guide for what to do. We do not know exactly when the Nightwings lost their powers. Stonemover says that the Nightwing scribes built up the Nightwing's abilities of prophecies and scrolls, and that he isn't even sure that their powers ever existed. That means that there might not be any historical scrolls on the Nightwing powers. The volcano is also not the best place to store any type of paper. So even if she tried to go looking for ancient scrolls, she wouldn't have found anything. But if she were able to find scrolls mentioning the Nightwing's powers in the archive as being real and not as a lie to the outside tribes, it would likely have been written post-Darkstalker, and very biased towards viewing the powers as a curse because of him, and maybe even something to be deliberately kept out of the tribe by hiding eggs away from the moons. However, that is still no excuse to directly call your daughter cursed, and indirectly said that she was born wrong, and calling her your weird little diamond, who does that? Just ew. So, is Secretkeeper abusive? Was she neglectful? Absolutely. She left her daughter alone in the rainforest to the point where she sometimes may have been starving. Did she cause Moonwatcher to be an anxious mess for other reasons? Yes, Moonwatcher believes that her powers have to be hidden at all costs. Despite being 4 years old, she can barely cope with them or her anxiety in general. One breathing exercise was all it would have taken to fix that poor dragonette. But once more, is Secretkeeper abusive? She endangered Moon physically by leaving her alone in the rainforest for extended periods of time. In the rainforest at young, Moon faced predators, starvation, and 1,000 other possible deaths. She also harmed Moon mentally. Secretkeeper described her powers as a curse and something wrong with her, and Moon internalized that message. Even after saving the world, Moon calls her mind reading just one of the things wrong with herself. Between being raised in isolation and being criticized because of something she could not control, Moon has a very low feeling of self-worth. However, Secretkeeper did not mean to harm Moon. She was trying her best to save her daughter from the horrors of the volcano at first. And after she discovered her powers, she wanted to keep her away from the other Nightwings out of fear of what they might do to her. I can't bring myself to call Secretkeeper abusive. She's misguided. She's done harm. However, she's not on the level of other abusive parents in the series like Jerboa and Queen Diamond. In the end, I feel like Secretkeeper only did what she did out of necessity. Moon would have had her growth stunted by the volcano, and if she brought Moon back later and her powers were discovered, she would have been used by Morosier to take over Peria. When Secretkeeper brings Moonwatcher to JMA, she notices how overwhelmed Moon is, and offers to bring her back to the rainforest. She offers to do the same thing in Darkness of Dragons when Moon comes back to the rainforest to check on Peacemaker, showing that she is always available to support her daughter when she asks. Though she neglected Moonwatcher as a dragonette, she has tried to be there for her daughter ever since. She definitely has a long way to go when it comes to understanding Moon's powers, but she is trying to understand her and her needs. While she isn't the best parent, you can't deny that she loves Moon in a pure way, and it's definitely improved her parenting techniques over the years. But what do you think? Is Secretkeeper abusive or not? Comment down below. If you liked this video, feel free to subscribe. I make animal fiction videos pretty often, and your support would mean a lot to me. And to those who are already subscribed, thank you so much for your continued support. I wouldn't have gotten here without y'all. Peace, Rogan out.